Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, of the Math and Science Academy's Board of Directors meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Do we have any volunteers to read the vision and mission and the land acknowledgements?
I can do the mission vision. You want to do land?
Which one?
Do you want to do land
All right,
acknowledgement?
I'll do that.
Okay. All right, MSA's vision is to be an innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence for all students that creates well-rounded, lifelong learners and global citizens. Our mission is that we provide accelerated and inclusive curricula and instruction in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science.
For our land acknowledgement, we'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the Ochi-Ti-Shakowi, the people of the Seven Councils Fire, and the Wapikote Band. It is within MSA's responsibility as an academic institution to disseminate knowledge about Indigenous peoples and their history with this land. MSA works to build relationships with Native American students and families through academic pursuits and historical recognition.
Thank you. Roll call of members. Wendell Sletton here. Isaac Leonardi.
Here.
Sarah Harms.
Here.
Karina Lozano.
Here.
Jules Kinkle.
Here.
Brian Linsmeyer. Petal Patel.
Here.
Dan Ellingson.
Here.
Mary Yap.
Here.
I have not received any open forum, so we will move past open forum. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Sorry, Brian.
I would like to add the amendment of including the election committee notes that were handed to, or given to us this morning. Are there any other corrections?
So you like those under 11F then?
Included with 11G. Is it? 12G. Should we include them with 12G or should we add 11F?
Well, the minutes contain the election results,
Mhm.
unless you want to do it as H. Or at G little I.
Do it that way, yeah.
12G little I?
Yeah.
Any more corrections?
If anyone would like to grab some chairs.
Hearing no other corrections. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Are there any conflicts of interest in tonight's meeting? All right. Approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Corrections or additions? Discussion?
On page, page 6, number 10, C3, the draft equity plan, number 2. Talking about the individuals qualifying for educational benefits is a very small percentage, and this data is protected to a very small number of staff. that suggests that it's only protected to a very small number of staff instead of protected by. Sorry. I
So
know
data
it's
is
vague.
protected by a very small number
Yeah.
of staff?
Yeah,
So change to by.
yeah.
Any other corrections?
On page 5, it talks about teacher salaries. It says if anyone was under 4%, we bought them an extra percentage. Did it say extra percentage or extra step? So we replace percentage with step.
So 2, 4, sorry, C, 2, 4, right? Is that where you're at?
C24A. Change percentage to step.
Yep.
Any further corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right. Moving on to board recognitions, I will turn this to Dr. Hinton.
Okay, well, we have a full house with some really amazing young people here tonight. So the first group of people that are, group of students I'd like to recognize are the National Merit Qualifiers. These students scored in the top 50,000 students out of over 1.3 million entries. They are qualified for the National Merit Scholarship Program. And we have a large number this year, so it's very exciting. And I want to recognize Idris Ahmed. And come on up.
Stand to be recognized, please.
Yep, and then we'll bring you up for a picture too.
Yep.
Elliot DeCare, I don't know if he's here today. Ethan Jones and Americo Taroso, did I say? How did I say? Tesoro, I'm sorry. So congratulations and thank you so much for all of your hard work. We're gonna bring everybody up for a picture together, so if you wanna just kind of stand over here, we'll bring everyone around and we'll do all the handshakes and everything together. Our next group, our next students, we have Will Coulter, who made the All-State Band this year, so that's quite a large honor in band. So congratulations. And the All-State Choir, I don't know if Caroline Sturry made the All-State Choir, so congratulations to her as well. So if you want to come on up. And then I also, and the board would like to also recognize, we have 3 student representatives, past and current, who are graduating this year, and they have served on our board. So we have Noya Halashad, who could not make it this year, or this, he couldn't make it this evening. He was not on the board this year, but last year. Joshua Balami, and who was new to us this year, and Joseph Aiello, who has been here for the last 2 years. So that is something we are very happy to have your voice and your participation. So if you guys want to come up and come and look. And then when you're done shaking, we'll stay here and I'll take your picture. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job. Congratulations.
Hello. This is fun. I think.
Picture right. So we'll have you kind of come over here and up in the front. We're gonna.
How many?
Somebody wants some meal, maybe?
Oh, hell yeah. There's a chair right here. Yeah, I'm sure. Vertically challenged, as they say.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming.
Little parents, yeah, little parents.
Picture. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And thank you.
Now there won't be a nuisance.
All right. Moving on, we're on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will motion to approve consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second approving the consent agenda.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Mary, can you restate your vote, please? I didn't see your hand go up. Thank you. Motion passes. So we're going to have an expansion presentation. I did see NTH is here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
Do we want to pull a table around so she?
Yeah, we can ask her what she prefers.
Yeah, do you want to stand or you want us to put a table here so you can?
I can stand.
Okay.
If that's all right.
All right, fine, whatever you're most comfortable with.
That's good?
Yep.
Okay. So Kate asked me to come in and give an update primarily around the budget and the struggles we're having with matching the revenue that can be generated through the leasing and the bonding process with the construction costs associated with the building to house the students that generate the lease aid. You all know how that works. So as we stand here today, we are looking at a gap of about $8 to $10 million in the project. So that's, on a percentage basis, really big. And so we wanted to kind of bring people up to speed on how we got here and talk about where do we go from here. So the work that's been done in order to develop these budgets, so Cunningham, the architect, has done the preliminary site plans, which I believe you've seen. Working on, locating the building on the site, identifying where our future track and field can go, what roads need to be added, how the stormwater is handled for a day like today, the park dedication that needs to happen for the various cities. They've looked at site infrastructure, like utilities, to really get a sense of how the site could be developed. They've met with the city of Woodbury and the city of Cottage Grove to review those plans, get city input on, yeah, that works, no, we need you to do something different here. And then Krause Anderson put together preliminary pricing for both that site work and for the development of the building. So then we took that and added all the other things that need to go into a budget. So the design fees, your furniture, fixtures, and equipment, the cost to actually buy the site, the city development costs, and contingencies, which I will say we don't have as much contingency in as we would like, but there's some contingency in the budget. We've had discussions with Bruce Sorensen at Baird about the financing, how it works, what can be pulled together. Cunningham went back to the drawing board on the design to say, can you make this building smaller and still meet your programmatic needs? So they were able to shrink the building a little bit without losing student capacity, which was important. We also talked about phasing. And so one of the phasing ideas is not to finish all the interiors of all the classrooms, that there could be a series of classrooms set aside that you would finish. So if you can imagine this room without the lights, without the ceiling, without finished floors, just kind of concrete slab and walls. Talked about some ideas there. And we went out to the PACT school in Ramsey with both the architect and the contractor to say, okay, here's a school that was built relatively recently. They've only been open for a year. Roughly the same size, but with a significantly lower budget. What does it look like? What choices did they make? Is there anything we can learn? So that's kind of all the work that's been going on behind the scenes. You know, we're working with assumptions of 1,500 students. That dictates a building size, which this reduced program is down to about 116,000 square feet. That's only 77 square feet per student, or if you don't count the 200 PSEO students that we're planning on, it gets 89 square feet per student. So it's really efficient. There's no extra. And then that's what generates the lease aid to support the bond aid. So right now, in today's interest rate environment, Baird was coming up with about a $48 million bonding issue, but that only nets $38 million for the project after reserves, capitalized interest, and issuance cost. So we're working with a $38 million project budget. The costs are coming in closer to $48 million. Some of the reasons we're having these challenges, well, the building and site itself make up about 73% of the budget. You know, so some really big numbers there. And that includes a lot of infrastructure. These sites are big. All three of them are currently farmland, which means they don't have the utilities you need, they don't have the roads, they don't have the stormwater. All of that falls into your budget. Both the city of Cottage Grove and the city of Woodbury have design standards that are higher than, for example, what PACT had to adhere to in Ramsey in terms of what materials you use on the exterior, how much glass there has to be, things like that. You have to put a storm shelter in. That's a big ticket item that is estimated at about $1 million. And that's a relatively recent code change. Another challenge is we're still in a very preliminary design. Cross Anderson is not going out and bidding this out and getting 3 electrical bids and 3 mechanical bids. They know the size of the building, they know the type of use. They're looking at what have we built schools for before and how would that apply here. And then there's some significant non-construction costs like city development fees that can add quite a bit to a project. So as we sit here, the math doesn't work. So what we've talked with Kate and Dan about are some strategies. One, really digging into the path costs. We walked through, we saw the building, it was lovely, okay? Getting kind of what was their construction cost bid, what did that look like, so we can see where are we making assumptions that maybe we don't need to make. Thinking about alternative financing sources for some of the soft costs. So for example, before you can do the bond issue, you got to be pretty far along in design so the contractor can give you a solid price that bondholders can rely on. So you're going to have to spend some money before you have the money. Is there cash flow available from operations to fund design costs while we go back? Another thing we could do is, you know, the city development costs I talked about, could talk to the city about, could those be paid over time rather than having to be paid, you know, the day you get your permit, for example. I know Kate's exploring some grant funding from the federal government that could be used potentially for some of these costs. We can go back and say, do we look at reusing an existing property rather than building a unit? We went down that road before and it didn't really provide any savings, but it's something to think about. Another thing to think about would be we had looked at this Rasmussen building up in Lake Elmo as a short-term lease, get you some additional capacity and revenue while plans for the new building come together. Maybe we revisit that kind of strategy for a little bit longer period of time. We had hoped to do it for 2 years. But maybe there's a longer period of time to do that, again, to increase your capacity of students and associated revenue, allow time for interest rates perhaps to come down, which can move the needle on the available revenue. The risk with that is construction costs will continue to go up. How fast? I don't think we'll see the increases we saw in 2021, 22, but they're still always going to go up. And probably the worst suggestion, but an idea, you could spend more money on design to try and get a better handle on pricing, but it's an idea, we're throwing it out there, but I don't know that it's the best idea on the list. Yeah.
When you say that, you mean coming back to Cunningham and asking them to redesign?
To not redesign, but to take what's really a block plan and start to really design a building so that it's clear. But if we don't have a site 100%, it's hard to do the building without the site. So that's why they could spend more time on design and putting information together for Cross Anderson, perhaps do some better pricing, but I don't feel like it's dollars well spent. Because there will be things unique to each site, and if we don't control a site and know where you're going, it could be dollars wasted. Yeah.
About 9 months ago, we went and looked at a site that had an existing building. It would obviously have light, sewer, water, streets already there. Would that fall under a potential strategy to go back and look there?
That would fall under the reusing a property instead of building new. One of the struggles with that was it was in such poor condition, needed a new roof, didn't have windows, there was so much.
And I get that, but I think from what I've seen, and I don't know what it would cost to demo an existing building versus put in roads and sewer and those kinds of things. I don't know, I'm
Yeah,
just asking those
if your thinking
questions.
is, with that particular one, there was also the challenge of the purchase price, but it hasn't gone anywhere either.
It hasn't, and I know at the time we looked at it, there wasn't a set price, they hadn't even discussed a price, so I don't know if the price has been
Yeah,
discussed
what
at
they-
this point or not.
What they had indicated to us was something like around 16 million. So I mean, it's like half your budget. So it didn't make a lot of sense at that time. But that was when it first came on the market.
Mhm.
So,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a proposal for us that is within our bonding budget?
no,
Okay, thank you.
not a building a new building that can meet the capacity you need for the bonding budget.
And the 3 sites that you have been vetting for us, do you have a viable building option for us that is within our bonding budget?
Not today.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the question that's sitting with me is that the last one with redesigning. I mean, are we not paying Cunningham to give us the best option, bang for our buck, if you will, now? Like, why do we have to go back and pay more when we've asked them to design this building? Now that we have 3 properties laid out, why have they not gone back and said, here's what we can do with this property?
Well, and they have gone back and said, here's how we can make this building more efficient and bring the cost down. And I don't think there's anything about what they've done that was not in your best interest. The kind of and I'm not saying redesign, I'm saying advance the design, which is a little bit different, which is, how can I describe it? More and more detail built on what they've already done. The kind of work that they would do eventually to have documents that could be bid out. And then so, but we'd be doing it out of sequence if we're not focused solely on one site.
So if I understand correctly, NTH can't execute on any plans for 38 million.
I don't believe.
It's not a Cunningham redraft issue, is it?
No, I mean, I think
It's an
with what
NTH
we
budget
know
issue.
today,
Uh-huh.
we don't have a plan for a building the size you need for $38 million. We do not believe that can be delivered with what we understand today.
Okay, you do not believe that NTH can deliver with our budget of 38 million? Thank you.
I appreciate you being direct and clear.
Well, it's important.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you.
No, I know.
Thank you.
This is, it's, I think, been frustrating for Dan and for Kate too, and for us, that how do we get these costs down?
Well, we are stewards of those funds, so we really need our contracted providers to really, be that straightforward with us. So thank you.
And now we're just at, I mean, we've had these conversations now on the Monday meetings for a while, and NTH has been a good partner trying to come up with different solutions, so we appreciate all the work NTH has done here. It's always been a math problem, right, trying to figure out. And so I think we talked on Monday about how some of these ideas, that's the ideas we have, but they're probably not 9 million. So I think, right, to come up with that, or let's say 8 to 10 million. So the biggest thing was probably how do we get the cost down, the construction cost down somehow, some way, because we can't change the interest rates, and that bonding cost is what it is right now. So it's seems like it's either maybe delay, which was one of the proposals you suggested, delay insofar as maybe a lease, wait, cross your fingers and hope, right? Or we figure out a way to reduce the cost of construction. Those seem like, if you were to boil it all down, kind of the couple of the bigger options that we have.
And that's where, if PACT was willing to share with you the details
Yeah.
of their construction costs, and I mean details. How much did they spend on site development costs? How much did they spend on concrete? How much did they spend on their mechanical systems? How much did they spend on their electrical systems? It's that level of detail that then we can say, okay, are we making assumptions that are too conservative?
Is that not public information? I'm curious.
Is that not poaching?
Well, but I think there's some public information, like some stuff that we'll have that when we build, they'll be released, but it's not at the granular enough level, I think.
And that's what you're
is
asking
Kind of
for.
Yeah.
really, when you've looked at the materials that are posted on the EMA, is what I think it is, the municipal bond, whatever site, the publicly available site. It's just not detailed enough. You have that information for some of it. Or
No, I don't.
No, okay. Well, I think what Bruce shared, it's not,
Yeah, Bruce shared the financing side of the equation.
High
yeah,
level,
the higher level, yeah, not down to the,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know that that other more detailed stuff is available without them sharing it themselves.
Do we have questions from anybody?
I would think that it would be available though, because it's a public entity and they used public funds.
So it's a little bit different because in Minnesota, charter schools are built and owned by building companies. So it's different than it would be in a traditional district.
I believe the information that could be shared was shared.
Yeah,
I think so.
we've had
That's
that
my
information
understanding.
on that.
Was as much as could be shared was shared. but-
Well,
More
Bruce
could be
was willing
shared.
to share the bonding information, so how
Yeah.
much did they issue in bonds, how much went to the project? But that total doesn't help us compare.
Yeah.
For example, having been out there, it doesn't look like they had to build any roads. Okay, well,
That's a cost
there's a,
saving.
there's a, there's a difference if, and I don't know what other assumptions would be different, but they also have a feel. It's like, okay, well, how much of that budget went to that? I think getting to the bottom of that might help.
Were any of the cities willing to help with some of those costs? To keep us, whether it be in Woodbury or Cottage Grove?
At this point, we haven't made a specific ask. I think that we're too far apart on the numbers. The city can't make up the difference for you.
Right.
So asking them to do something for a project that may not go, I think we want to be further down. But the idea of asking them to spread things over time, make some other, the city of Woodbury has been, I'll say, attentive,
Yes.
would be a good way to describe them. To talk, and offered up, well, we could look at a gymnasium differently in terms of materials, but.
I'm just talking just basic, the roads, are they willing to put in any of the infrastructure up into it, knowing that they will probably be using it for their use also?
Especially in areas that have been primarily originally zoned as potential residential as well.
Yeah.
All of them are kind of essentially future residential.
So if we can maybe try to leverage that a little bit, like Brock's saying, that might be a way to cut down on costs of, hey, you were thinking about doing this anyhow. You have a plan of going in to make this an area where people are going to live. We are willing to put the school here to make this a more appealing area, thank you.
And both communities really want to have you. But even putting in residential, they typically look to the developer to do that, the roads. But again, we can ask, but we're just not, I don't feel like we're ready to, I feel like we need to be able to say, if you do this, we're done. That, this is the last hurdle. We've done everything we can do to get our costs in line. Here's the gap, how can you help?
And the cost, I'm sorry, when you look at, I know the track was put in there, is that included into that 48?
No.
That's not,
Okay,
okay,
that's a future cost.
okay, that's what I was curious.
Auditorium was also future cost.
Pardon?
An auditorium as well was not included in the current.
Right, there's a gymnasium. The plan-
Gymnasium, we had like a space for the auditorium, but no auditorium.
Yeah, the current plan for the building has a couple of places for future expansion, both for like an auditorium and for some additional classrooms.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry
Thank
to
you so
bring
much
the
for
mood
coming.
down after all
Coming
the
in.
awards for the students. It's like, okay, now the fun stuff. So
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
All the work and.
I don't think that's true.
To us, what can it be?
I can,
That would be helpful. It was very hard to read the screen.
yeah, and I'll ask Kate to put it in the expansion and stuff too, because it's public information.
Just have it filed, final and signed.
Oh, okay. We've got
We're gonna come up in teams, and so I
Okay.
think I'll just be back here.
Okay, whatever you need to do.
So just to clarify, we invited NTH to come present on their behalf as our current company. We did ask Ku and his company to come in, who worked with PACT in their project, just to kind of give us an idea of what we can potentially have within their needs. So, is there anything else you'd like to add to the
We
community?
just, the PACT, JB Bank did do the PACT project, so that's, we've been reaching out and trying to recreate the PACT project, so we decided to invite in the team that actually did it to tell us how they accomplished that, so. Ku, right, Ku Vang?
Yep.
He is the president of JB Bang and Associates, and he brought his team.
Well,
Yep.
Yep, you're good to go.
great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Board of MSA, for giving us the opportunity to be in front of you guys again, a couple of times. So we appreciate it. We appreciate being here to be able to talk to you about our experience with charter school facilities.
And Ku, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but just for a little transparency, we did reach out to JB Vang 5 years ago when John started this project, and so when you say again, it's because of so, yeah.
So, from JB Vang, we've been around since '84. We started doing charter school work in about 2000 with leasing and stuff of that nature. We started doing facilities development for charter schools in 2013. Since 2013, we've done 32 charter schools project in Minnesota, totaling about $508 million worth of work, totaling about 1.6 million square feet of space. We don't believe there's anybody in Minnesota that has more experience doing charter schools than we do. There's other folks, but we don't believe there's anybody else. From the JV Bank team, you'll have myself, you have Justin Fincher, who's our Vice President of Development. He'll be handling a lot of the day-to-day stuff. You have Ashley Bisner, who's our Senior Development Manager. She'll be handling a lot of the communications with the architects, the contractors, and with the school leadership. And then you'll have Serena Vang, who's a Development Manager, that will assist Ashley with the work. Today, we just want to do a quick introduction of all of the team members, and this is the team in which brought you guys packed. Okay, so we'll go through that. We're going to talk through our process a little bit, and then each one of them is going to talk through what they do in terms of getting us to the end. We'll come back and have a quick conversation on timeline, and then Bruce sent over a new bond run. The market has changed just a little bit. There is now money flowing into the high yield bond funds now, so they just took a couple of projects to market, so there's a little bit more resources, and we'll run through that last bond run in which Bruce sent last week, I think, and give you guys a project budget as to what you can expect, okay, as we push forward. We'll have Ashley talk a little bit through what our project assumptions are right now. So next page, if you don't mind.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks for having us here. So just a slide here on our project assumptions between the existing location and then the proposed new location. So the existing location, obviously, is at this address for buildings A and B, and that has the K through 5 campus. For the new location, looking more toward the 6 through 12 on the high school side, and then assuming locating a site either in the Woodbury area or the Cottage Grove area at that 20 to 30 acre size. And then the building size, we're thinking between about 116 to 125,000 square feet. And then just below this here, we have the kind of enrollment assumption. So currently with the 450 students for the K through 5, and then for the new addition, or the new school, grades 6 through 12, 1,300 on-site students, and then there's the 200 of the PSPO students as well. So total full enrollment would be at the 1950 is the project assumptions that we're going with.
Whenever we do charter schools, we're always very cognizant of the limited budgets in which a school has. And so what we try to do is leverage as much work as we can and minimize the exposure of what you guys are paying out. Because a lot of your money are supposed to be going towards teaching your kids, and whatever you spend outside of that, your kids are not going to get that service. And so we split our process into multiple phases. And so obviously, we have the site selection and negotiation. Then we have the site, the preliminary site design, and architects love me when I talk about this stuff, is we do a massing plan to kind of show you that big blocks are gonna fit where you guys wanted to fit on that site, that it makes sense, and that we can get enough classrooms in which you guys need on that site. And then if the site makes sense, then we push ahead and do a site plan approval package, so that we get that site approved for what you guys want to do from a zoning perspective, from a land use perspective, from a stormwater management, parking, flow, and all that stuff. That usually runs right around that $80,000 to $100,000, okay? And so we stop it there until your financing is closed. There's no reason to spend any more money than that until you guys close on your financing, okay? Once your financing is closed, then we push ahead and we finish the design development, and we break that into two packages. We do a footings and foundation package, which gets you guys your footings, your walls, your roof and everything else. And that bid package goes in first so that we can start working on that as you guys then go through bid package 2, which is all the interior finishes, the floors, the lights, and all the pretty stuff which people see. Then from there, construction starts, construction gets completed, you guys move in, we stay with you through the warranty period, we stay with you through the punch list. 11 months later, we come back through and do a final walkthrough on anything that seems to not be working right, and then we turn everything over to you at that time. You don't spend money until we get through financing, until you know you guys have a project. It's a design assist model where we set a budget that meets your needs. It's up to the architect and the contractor, and you guys and us, to design a project that meets the space requirement that you guys are looking for, the form and function, and what you guys are looking for on the site and what you guys are looking for. So that's our process in a nutshell, okay? With that, I'm gonna turn this over to the architects, and they'll talk more through how they get you guys through the design process.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Gonzalo Villares. I'm an architect. I'm one of the owners of Pope Design Group. I lead our education and community group, and Rafael and Elise here are part of the team. We're part of the team with JP Bang and Roshan that worked in charter schools before. This is a process that we've done several times. We know the steps that we need to take, and we'll show you a few examples of some of the strategies that we use to help keep the budget under control. But before we do that, I just want to reassure you that meeting the budget, while that's obviously very, very important, we don't do that at the expense of meeting the mission of the school and understanding the goals of the school and what it is, the project that you want to deliver for your staff and for your students and for the families. So that's not going away. We are able to meet those, have those strategies to meet the budget, but again, not at the expense of meeting the mission of the school. So with that, I'm gonna let Rafael and Elise introduce themselves.
So I'm Rafael, I'm a project manager at Pope. I was the Pope project manager and would be your project manager as well. And I've worked with Elise on a number of projects and Jay Daniel on a number of projects. I'll let you introduce yourself first.
I'm Elise Kelly. I'm an architect at Pope. And I am also a leader of a sustainability team at Pope. And I'm a committee member of the DEI committee, so I do like to look at all projects through those lenses. I think it's really important to do that no matter what project.
So I do want to keep reiterating, we do design to the owner's budget, but again, that's not at the expense of a great site that's safe, that works well, it's functional, it looks great, and also a great building that's safe, functional, supports your mission, looks great, and functions well. So we've started to jot down different strategies we use at Pope, but again, it's creating efficiency with the way the building's positioned, with the way the site's developed. But again, we're looking at everything holistically and working, it's a team effort with us, the architects, the designers, the contractor, and most importantly, the owner, and JV Bang, of course, creating an efficient site that meets your budget. There's a lot of information gathering we draw through the process, whether it's surveys or soil borings, everything informs the function of the site, the way it comes together, and the cost of the site, so to speak. Again, but it's not at the sacrifice of a great site, a beautiful site, a beautiful building. So we do have other kind of strategies listed down. If you want to go to the next slide. So again, at PAC, for instance, there's a lot of discussion about right-sizing spaces, right-sizing classrooms, creating efficient layouts. Other strategies, minimizing double height spaces. There are some impact spaces that probably would be for yours, but not every space is a tall space. You know, we try to, again, double height spaces cost money, so having the right double height spaces for the right impact. But at PAC, what we were able to do, again, is bring plenty of natural light into the building, have plenty of views. The site was beautiful with a number of trees and views to the adjacent park. So again, it's understanding your site opportunities and constraints, leveraging those while still creating efficient floor plan spaces, one of the main determinants in cost. So we needed right-sized circulation spaces, classrooms, other kind of support spaces. So.
And this is the fun part, at least for me. We got to work with the staff and focus groups really listening to their priorities, but helping them figure out which priorities we can identify right now that we need, and then also building planning for the future if there's any expansion, and making those priorities work with the teachers' agendas and the site constraints. So for example, for PACT, what we did was they really wanted an auditorium, but that meant we had to give and take with the choir room, so their choir room was on the stage. Well, in future plans, we have a master plan for a music area, and then the band room, the weight room could also shift to that room, which would then allow the auxiliary gym to be used. So a lot of planning forward thinking, so being respectful of that, but also making sure that teachers can teach in those spaces. Efficient exterior massing, for PACT in general, it was making sure we worked with Moline to a precast company who was making sure we had efficient precast sizing so that we didn't have to increase the structure, we kept it really efficient, but at the same time, we had floor-to-floor heights that weren't residential. It still felt like a school. We weren't really stuck.
These are all strategies kind of running in the background, so you may not see it if they're not obvious to the normal people. You don't see like, oh, this is a cheap building. That's not at all. But these are really good techniques to help us keep the budget under control.
So, yeah, everything's a team effort, so we worked quite a lot hand in hand with Rashawn, with Jeff and Stephen and Jim on, structural systems, selection of those costs money, optimizing the floor systems, the roof systems, minimizing kind of structural infrastructure. That was, early on, we had quite a bit of dialogue with them, and all of the whole team holistically were able to come up with an efficient structural system. Again, space costs money, additional structure costs money, so again, we keep talking about efficiency, but at the same time, again, still keeping in mind, it needs to be a great building that serves your needs and functions and stuff like that, so. And then there's a few more slides on materials. Again, and I would say we're going to start shifting in the process, but our process is open book. So with PACT, we typically had weekly meetings, and we'd have weekly meetings with you as well to see all of the discussions and decisions kind of evolve, the design would evolve, all the information gathering would evolve. So we're not doing anything behind the scenes that we don't share with you. So you do have a stake in the way your building looks, the way it functions, and the key decisions we make to essentially create efficiencies, but still give you a great looking building. We typically have weekly meetings. I mean, nowadays it's easy to do it virtual. At the onset, we'd have a whole agenda for every meeting from now until at least the first phase when it's submitted for site plan review, but then that second phase, once that gets resumed, we also have weekly meetings for that, and then you would know who the stakeholders are that we talk to, what the key decisions are, what the milestones are, so that everyone, basically the owner, J.B. Bang, Rashawn, the architects, the designers, the civil engineers, the structural engineers, everyone knows where we are with the design, where we are with the decisions, how it's affecting the cost of your building, the look of your building, the functioning of your building. So everything is essentially transparent, and all of us are part of the same team.
And can I also say, we have fun too. It's not
Okay.
all business, so we have fun.
I know, we're sounding super rigorous.
Design's great.
Okay, high five.
That's okay.
No, I mean, if you want to go to the next slide, there's a lot of meetings with the owner. We do check in with the city. We have meetings with the planning and zoning folks, the building folks. The site plan decisions affect cost and efficiency as well. But essentially, realize you've done some work on the visioning, so there's a little bit of a leg up for us kind of piggybacking off of that effort, but there's the visioning. For us, we need some time to understand your vision, your goals. It's beyond just what we can see on your website. That involves meetings and discussions with you, with all the other stakeholders. We do have some projects where we reach out to students. We have visioning sessions with the students, faculty, and staff, essentially community outreach, or your school community outreach. So essentially, we have a process that's visioning, scoping, we're defining the building program, and even when we define the building program, which is the number of spaces, the sizes, we know the size of your building, and using our models with the other charter schools we've done, we have a rough idea how we're tracking from a cost perspective. If it's X amount of square feet, we know, okay, we think we're on budget basically because of the list of different spaces, the size of the spaces. But then there's also the emotional, social stuff about knowing how the spaces connect to each other and flow together. And those are some of the things that's part of the visioning and the scope initial discussions, which it's good you've already done some of that work to begin with, so you have a leg up, you have some of that stuff prepared, so we'll build off of that, basically. And as Ku discussed, we'll take all of that information and work towards the initial concept development, which is essentially the information that goes into the first site plan submittal. And then, the rest of it's construction drawings, but even once we do the site plan submittal, there's more meetings after that as we really do the programming, get deeper into the design of the building, develop the design, issue the drawings that go out to bid for permitting, basically. And I think, again, it's constant discussions with the owner, with the contractor, with JV Bang, with everyone, all the stakeholders as a team, basically, to make sure we're on budget. Budget's important, but we're tracking with your vision, we're giving you a great-looking school, performing school.
In some of those meetings, we like to have the computer with us where we can fly through so you can actually see it 3D. And in this example here, we've got some QR codes that we created so you could scan it with your phone and look at those renderings. I think we used it for a community engagement project for that. So lots of opportunities.
Great. So next group that's gonna come up is Roshan, our general contractor on the PAC project as well as on a number of other projects. They'll talk with you guys through how they approach project management, how they approach options and alternates and stuff like that. So I'll let them introduce themselves.
Well, thank you very much for having us. I'm Jeff Bowman. I'm one of the owners of Roshan and the CEO at the time. This is the team that worked on PAC. Jeff Buckley, our vice president, project executive. Jeff's got extensive experience in charter schools. He's worked on PAC, Sparrow 1 and 2, Hope, Community School of Peace, Da Vinci, North Lakes 1 and 2. That's just a few of the charter schools that he's been involved with. Stephen Fox, our project manager at PAC. Stephen's worked on PACT, Sparrow 1, or Sparrow 2, Hope, Community School of Peace, Community School of Excellence he's doing right now. And Jim Dupay, our superintendent, the man in charge on the site. Jim just got done with PACT. He worked on Hope and Sparrow. Jim's the first guy on the job every day, last guy to leave every day, including weekends. Jobs of this size and this scope, a lot of work, a lot of time, and Jim's the guy that makes it happen. So, pretty invaluable team here, but I'm gonna let Jeff kind of talk about some of the things that he was referring to.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of walk you through what to expect with our building type. We start with the first slide here. All three of these projects, including everyone that's on Ku's front page, started with the same process. We have called a baseline, but it's not a restrictive baseline. All three of these projects worked within that without major changes, other than adding technology, way beyond the normal scope. With contingency, all of these three schools worked in the same budget, but went a different direction. If you look at Da Vinci, when they looked at it, they were very theater focused, so very beautiful theater there. Community School of Excellence, high in the gym area, gym and the kitchen. They wanted a high-end kitchen, so they have a larger kitchen than I think most restaurants do. And then PAC was very much in the field. I don't know if you've been out to PAC to see that beautiful field out there. I mean, that's $2 million worth of infrastructure that they have. That was a high priority for them. Similar to your project as well, what we're seeing with the construction industry, if we were to go today, we're likely looking at a two-phase project. All three of these projects were two-phased. These say 10 months. I think the first one here was done in 10 months and 14 months. In reality, this was, you never want to do it again, but turned over in 6 months, the kids moved in. That wasn't a good deal. Just with industry delays out of our control, but we got it done. They were there. Us three were laying sod the day before school started. Community School of Excellence, same thing. The timeline on that, the current project we're doing right now is multi-phase. We turned over one floor. We ran into some soil issues, but we worked and we massaged it and we got the school what they needed. PAC, it says 14 months. We actually broke ground in November, got footings in, sat for 2 months. They were in school for August. The 14th is when we turned over the building completely. So a lot less time than that, but it's a phased approach. If we go to the next slide, we'll kind of walk through what our baseline is on this. What you're going to see, like Raphael talked about, we use a lot of concrete precast material. We try to take the material, the concrete, the steel, and create efficiencies in price and construction to get the building up fast. The duration has to be shorter on these projects because of financing costs and stuff like that, so. A lot of windows, we say minimize the windows, but I don't think you would go to PAC and say there wasn't enough windows in that building. If we put more than that, typically people are covering them up. Mechanical systems, so all of our mechanical systems are gonna be design build. Your HVAC system, which is probably the most noticed out of everybody, is gonna be a VAV system. It's gonna be a forced air. For the common consumer, you're gonna have control in every classroom, and you're gonna have, we traditionally group like office spaces. There's not a need really to put every office on their own because the systems will fight themselves. So we typically will group a bank that's on the window as a bank that's inside the area. So electrical and plumbing are the same thing. Those are all design build processes. Plumbing is per code. It's kind of set in what it is. Electrical, we go through a whole process of, we have our baseline that addresses the needs of the school, and we look at, there's always, some school, I did one and they wanted, all the kids brought in meals, so they needed 25 microwaves. Like, everybody's different, so we kind of work in these parameters, but we have a baseline. I think if we go to the next slide, we can talk about interior finishes. So on our projects, you're gonna see a lot of sealed concrete and VCT. VCT was used for a long time, but now is kind of in school markets being changed over from maintenance to sealed concrete. Sealed concrete is a zero maintenance product as opposed to this is a high maintenance product. But both are in our scope. We're often seeing sealed concrete, VCT in kind of classroom commons areas, and then the carpet will be mainly in the office areas and in the media center, stuff like that, band rooms. Ceramic tile, we'll see ceramic tile in all the restrooms. Drywall, we'll do level 4 finish throughout, which most people doesn't really mean a whole lot, but what it means is we can do high-end office and do a level 5, but it's gonna cost you $400,000, and you wouldn't notice a difference if I didn't do it, right? So why spend the money? So it's kind of putting that money where you want it. Paint, we typically, standard color lines, we're typically doing one accent wall per classroom, and having some fun. You've seen, like, this was all within our original school budget, all this painting and coloring at PAC. And that Sparrow here, there's a lot of that Sparrow coloring. Lay-in fixtures, you're gonna see all LED ceiling fixtures, lighting fixtures. Traditionally your entry area will have some accent fixtures to draw some attention when you come in the building. And then we get into low voltage. So traditionally we approach low voltage as an allowance. Schools differ. Some schools want 500 cameras, some don't want a camera in their school. It changes every year. But traditionally what we'll allow us for in our low voltage is low voltage connection in the classroom, common access points, security control of the whole building, 15 camera locations. And then traditionally we see most schools operate with 3 card access doors. That varies, but the baseline is every school needs 3. You need one for your main entrance, one for the teachers, and one for deliveries. So that's kind of our baseline for access control. Next slide, please. Project timeline. Who do you want to hit on project timeline?
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
So let's talk about timelines, huh? Let's see if we can get this thing done for you guys. So I'm gonna let Ashley quickly run through this. As you can see, it's broken up into multiple pre-construction stuff, pre-development, construction, and so on.
All right, so as I think Roshana alluded to, we do have some pretty tight timelines for a couple reasons. Obviously, to get you guys' school to start, and then just considering different months that are a little bit more difficult for construction. So starting off with the project definition and really the site negotiation, site location, which it sounds like, Woodbury and Cottage Grove are the 2 locations that you guys are most interested in. From there, we move into the heavy months of the summer. There's a lot of different things kind of going on at that point. We're looking at the initial massing of the building, analyzing the site in general itself. We're getting into some more of the design aspects, and associated with that, also getting some preliminary pricing and some pricing as the designs continue to evolve throughout the process. And then also in tandem with that, we're going through really the financing and the city approval process. So finding the site and then going through the process of being able to build on it essentially from a city's perspective. Planning to close here in the September months and start construction right away. We do have it shown as the 2 phases here, as we were talking about before. There's really kind of that footing and foundation, what we call the bid package 1, and then we move into bid package 2, which is more of the design, the full building and the finishes of the building as well. So within these 2 phases, we're assuming that would be, you know, kind of renovations with the existing school and then also with the new construction as well. So the timeline kind of bakes those 2 in together. As I mentioned, it's important to hit certain dates, obviously to get your guys' school to start, but then once you get into those winter months, there's a lot more costs associated with what's called winter conditions. Just being able to build during those winter months, keeping the building itself heated, digging in, you know, frozen ground is not great either, and it just adds on those additional costs associated with it. So those are critical timelines that we have to meet to turn over the building in a quick fashion. And then as Coop mentioned earlier, there's 2 different move-in phases as well. So once, the first phase would be, you know, initial move-in for the school, and then the second phase would be the rest of the construction.
So as I was alluding to before, right, so we have 30, 60, 90, 120. Within the next 120 days, you guys have to be prepared to spend about $100,000, right? Assuming that we have a site under site control, we're gonna start the site design, start the site plan approval process with the city. We're gonna start the MDE review and comment so that we get that done. And everything, all of these paths needs to come together, and we need to close in September, right? So everything needs to come together. If we don't close in September, we can close a bit later, but it kind of compresses everything else. By the end of September, you would have a site that is under site control. You have a site that has gone through the city entitlement. It's all approved by the city. We can do what we want to do on it already. You'll have a GMP contract from the contractor that says this is how much we're going to charge you, and this is what you're going to get. You're going to have a design in which you guys like, and which has all the rooms that you need, the type of construction that you want. So that, and then you're going to have financing that's ready to close. So when you close, the project just takes off. But it gives you that opportunity in the next 120 days to kind of figure that out, right? So can we do that? Let's go on to the last page. I'm sure this is one everybody wants to see, right? So Bruce sent me a bond run on the 16th, and rates have gone down a little bit. So as you guys can see, on this over here, line 46, average arbitrage, as you guys may not know, bonds are sold in tranches, and all the tranches have different rates because they're due at different time. We average everything together, and you're at a 5.43 on the 35-year amortization. So you work all that backward, and you have a total project cost of a little bit over $49 million, and that basically puts the school at contributing $652,000 a year, line 54, from your gen ops. Okay, so that's what you need to contribute above and beyond max lease aid. Okay, and max lease aid and max rent is 2 different numbers, you guys know. Okay, and so you work that backward. Line 1, let's start on top now. We're assuming $3.5 million for acquisition. If we don't use it all, it comes into project expense. New addition, 125,000 square feet at $250 a square feet. We're at $31.1 million. Okay, you're going to get your 125,000 square foot building in this project. We set aside $1 million for renovation of the existing building here for capital expenditures, maybe RTUs, maybe windows. I know the last time we walked through, there's water issues and stuff of that nature. We'll set aside there. You have all your soft costs, architect, all of the sack and whack, all of the site, all of the phase 1s, all the surveys, all of the geotechs we know we can build, all of that stuff. And then we set aside $2 million for the project, you know, contingency here, okay? If we don't use it, it comes back into the hard cost. You can add to your project. Along with that, we also set aside $500,000 in soil mitigation. We just don't know what that soil is gonna look like, right? And so we set aside $500,000. That's typically more than enough. Now, if we walk through a site and it's all wetland, we'll tell you that's probably not enough, right? But in normal sites in that area, which you guys are looking at, we should be fine at that level. As long as we're not over by where all of the ponds are going, where Cottage Grove is building all their ponds, right? So all that in, total project costs, is $43 million. Have $500,000 for the cost of issuance, that's all of the legal fees, all the accounting fees, all the forecasting fee, underwriter's discount, $641,000. Then we have your capitalized interest of $1.5 million. Because of the fact that we're able to deliver this project in a lot shorter timeline, your cap I is half of what you guys have run in the past on an 18 to 24 month construction period. Okay? So your cap I is about $1.5 million, and based on your growth pattern and based on your enrollment ramp up, that should be able to take you guys all the way through June 1st of 2027. So basically, the way you guys are paying right now is you have tier growth every year, and with that tier growth generates max rent. There's a shortfall between max rent and that 652 that will get covered by your cap I. Okay. Interest rates today on money held in escrow is right around 4.5%, 5%. You'll probably earn close to $600,000-$700,000 worth of interest throughout the next 12-month period. We'll put all that right back into the project. Packed, I think we walked away with how much?
I think it was $650.
$650,000. We added a lot of stuff back in with that $650,000. Okay. All that comes into play. You have debt service reserve of $3.6 million. That is going to be your 35th year rent payment, debt service payment. So if this bond goes on 35 years, as the way it should be, year 35, you won't have any rent payment. It'll just be taken out of that $3.6 million. Okay? All that in, again, you're looking at about $652,000 out of the general operating fund every year. We're assuming a BB+ rating when we go to market. So that's it. That's the project.
So you're looking at a move-in date, the first phase of move-in is when?
August of 2025.
So a year from August.
A year from August.
Okay.
You will have, depending on when we get precast and steel, these things are kind of pushed forward. So in the past, right after COVID, the way in which we've managed is because we know which school we're working on, so we would buy precast slots ahead of time. Actually, we make Roshan buy precast slots. So they would buy 2 or 3 slots because we knew we had 2 or 3 schools coming. We didn't do that this year because we didn't have any large schools coming. So I think you checked in with Moline, were there out too?
Yeah, Moline, FAPM, all the major producers right now. If I gave them plans right now, it'd be
December, right? And so we can lock that in, if that makes sense. We'll lock that in, and then we'll complete the plans. So then that means we gotta get all the site completed so that we're ready to accept precast in December. Well, what, month and a half of erection?
Yep.
Yeah, and then we'll start the interior work. So you should get, at a minimum, all of your classrooms that you guys need. We might have to delay on the large space, like the gym and any of the large spaces. Well, you'll get all the classrooms, you're ready for school in the fall.
Cool, thanks so much. Excellent presentation. It's refreshing to see where the numbers kind of work. So thanks for that. I did have a question for you because we're in a kind of an awkward situation with having already started. Can you take us through how could a transition like that work?
So it depends on where you guys are at. If you'd like to use, so I'm gonna take a step back. If you already started the negotiation with the landowner, that eliminates our site search and stuff of that nature. We'll just step in and carry negotiation forward from there and get to a purchase agreement, okay? The designs in which you guys may or may not have done now, I don't know if they're site specific or not. They might just be building designs. If they're not site specific, and if you guys like those layouts, we'll have Pope try to fit it onto the site which you guys are looking at, and if it fits, we can move forward with it. If it doesn't fit, we're gonna have to do modifications, okay? Typically, these designs are owned by the architect. That's fine, they can have the drawings, we just need a copy of it so we can plop it onto something else. So that should be fine, okay? The contractors, I'm assuming they haven't started anything on this, and so we should be fine with the contractors moving forward. So depending on where you guys are at on your actual the execution of the contract, we may have to go back and look at it and see how we can terminate it.
Okay. So we have like a feasibility study and things, we've paid for that from our previous architect. Would you be able to because we own that now,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
We can give that to you and
Yep.
you can do whatever
Yep.
can be done with it.
Yeah. And that would be great, because that allows us to then use that as the base for the design, use that as the base for classroom counts, classroom sizes, adjacencies, flows, and stuff of that nature, and what's important to you.
And we've been in that situation before, so what we do is take that information that you have so far, and we'll absorb, we'll go through it, and then just basically validate that with you, make sure that we are understanding correctly, make sure that everything that you have so far is still valid, because things might have changed, and that will be our starting point for the design to move forward from that point on.
Just a couple quick comments. So one is, we were going down a path, but that path has been cost prohibitive for us. You guys have some expertise in areas that maybe others don't. So I'm happy that we share, but I don't want to say like, this needs to be replicated. Because I don't want to take away what you guys are already experts in.
Right.
So it's just like, we don't want to waste it,
Yep.
but use it for what it's worth, is
Yep.
what I would say.
Our experience is that architects are the only ones in which claims ownership of drawings. Everybody else, if you pay for it, it's yours. So.
Yeah, for us, it's more just the input that you gave to the previous architect as far as the type of spaces that you need, the number, the square feet, that's what we'll use, not necessarily the design, the formness, because so far you don't have a site. So we'll have to go through that exercise with you, so that will be a fresh start.
The only other thing I'll add is, the design that we have currently, I would say, was kind of like, kept getting smaller and smaller, because the numbers weren't changing, so we were trying to so I wouldn't say it's necessarily what it was that we started with that we wanted, it was more like, can we make something work? So, it was good work, and I appreciate the work that was done before, but we'll share what we can and what's fair to share. But I think it would be nice to have some of those conversations again, just to make sure that you don't take an assumption that that's what we wanted, because that might have been what we ended up with.
Absolutely.
So I guess one of the questions I have, you had mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't want to call your name.
Elise.
Elise, I wanted to say Ashley, it's close.
I'm called first.
Elise, okay, you had mentioned meeting with staff, meeting with students, and faculty, or, the community. We've done that previously. We are 2 weeks from tomorrow night, this guy graduates with 80 plus of his other fellow classmates.
Awesome.
And our school is done for the summer. How do you anticipate taking what we've done, but yet still keeping it fresh, because that was done 2 and 3 years ago, moving us forward and staying on your timeline over the summer when nobody's here?
We do a lot of summer work, believe it or not, but also if they have any documents of any surveys or anything that's been done, we'd be happy to go over it. But we can also, we've been good at setting up community meetings or any staff meetings, even if no one's there, but getting good input. We can also make fun flyers, we can help with that, we can help with renderings or things like that. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, to what extent, even if school's out, are the kids in the community, would they be willing to come and have a work session in the evening, or even a virtual one, a Zoom one, for instance? I mean, you're not going off to college yet, if you're around during the summer, would the students have some time to?
school?
So I think there's options, whether it's virtual or just an evening, a couple evenings during the summer before kids theoretically go to college, in-state or out-of-state, basically.
Unfortunately, because a school starts at a certain time out there, right? So I get asked this question a lot, they go, well, what's plan B? My answer is there is no plan B. In the work that we do, there's a plan A and a plan A. There is no plan B. Most of these work does happen during this summer month. And a lot of it is just because we gotta push it through the summer. And during the school year, a lot of teachers they have classroom activities, they have all that stuff which you guys have to deal with. And so, we are gonna need 1, 2, or a team that you guys assign that are gonna be the lead on the project to kind of work with us. And then we'll communicate that to whatever stakeholder group you guys want in a manner in which you guys want. And we can help you come up with creative ways of enticing and encouraging comments and stuff of that nature back. But there is gonna have to be a group. And in some schools, it's the executive, the director and the board chair. That's it. In some schools, there's a committee of 5 to 10 people. In some schools, we did Great River, there's a committee of 15 people. And everything, we got to whittle down from here down to here. That took a long time. But at the end of the day, it's whatever fits your model and your decision-making model, right? Because at the end of the day, we want everybody to have a vested interest in the building forward. So we'll work around whatever you have. And obviously, there's stuff in which we'll take from what you guys have, put something on paper, we'll get it back to, so that whatever we put in front of you guys, it's good information which you can react to. Does
So
the
that make sense?
strategic plan we would give to them, too, correct? The
We'll-
strategic,
we'll give
well,
them
not the
everything that they
strategic
want.
plan, the,
The
guiding
Yeah.
the guiding change document, sorry, the guiding change document that we
Guiding
did.
principle
specifically for
document.
this.
Yep, absolutely.
I will say that also, if, depending on phasing, we could also work on micro programming when we are back in school, because
Yep.
that's the work, like, the casework, things like that, when the teachers really want
Yep.
storage in their classrooms, we can still be working on that in
Yep.
the summer, or
In the
early
fall.
fall. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of doing this in phases, right? So bid package 1 is the outside, it's the envelope and where the classrooms are going to be located. Bid package 2, you guys are all back already, the bonds are closed, you're back, Elise and the team that can start talking about floor selections, ACT, color, casework, everything else, all the fun stuff, right? By that time, all the students are back, by that time, all the teachers are back. We can start doing room layout, teaching wall, non-teaching wall, right, stuff of that nature.
So how often are you guys on time and on budget?
We have never not have a school start on time, and we've never gone over budget. 508 million, we know what the cost is. We know where these costs come in. The best cost I've ever done is New Millennium, $123 a square foot, 86,000 square feet, right? Never again will we ever get that. So,
Yeah, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
If you can remind me, the December deadline was for walls?
The December deadline is if we lock in a slot right now, we could get precast panels by December. Yes.
By December?
Yes.
Okay, and that's not a flexible date, right?
That's
It
not
would-
a flexible
It would
date.
be, you order out, okay?
Yeah, because we would have to lock in that and get them drawings, because everything is so stacked up, that becomes an issue.
But that's accounted for in your timeline.
That is accounted for, yeah. 12 months, I mean, this is a luxury for Roshan.
And if not, August 1st of 2025, we'll see all of you out playing sod with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we ruined both of our white shirts that day.
I got 3 kids, I can bring them.
No, I mean, we'll be here from day 1, and we'll be here on that first day when you guys open, to make sure bus circulation happens the way you guys want it to happen, to make sure that doors are opening the way you guys. The first week of school, Roshan teams are on site, our team's on site, architects the only one that are not on site, and we're in there with you when the kids show up, and if there's anything that happens that first week, we have to get it taken care of that first week, so that you guys can operate your school. You have more important things to do.
Is there any other questions at this time? I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to ask.
Not sure who the question is for, but we've already identified 3 sites as the best options. Do we still have access to all those 3 sites? And are we still thinking those are the best options?
Yeah, those are still for sale. I mean, we certainly could, we would share those sites and see if those work, when it, how that would work out.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're fortunate enough to get, assigned the project, the first thing we'll do is you guys will give us those 3 sites. We'll do our own zoning analysis and say, okay, out of these 3 sites, does it make sense, right? Which one is gonna be the easiest one for us to get you through land use or site plan approval? And who knows, we might get lucky and your number 1 site is that site. Or we might come back and say, you know what, you can go at number 1, but it's a 50-50 if we're gonna get this through land use. We go with number 3, because this one makes the most sense from a zoning, from a buffer standpoint, from an adjacency, from a use perspective, okay? Now, one thing I wanna make clear, okay? Our budget of $250, we're assuming that sanitary is in the street and that water is in the street, okay? There's a certain area in that South Woodbury and North Cottage Grove that does not have water and sanitary. which means we gotta go in and dig up a well, put in a pressure tank so that we can make sure that the sprinkler lines all make sense, and we have to go in and put in a wastewater treatment system in there. The same thing we did at Da Vinci. So we know how to do this, we've done it at Da Vinci.
How much is that roughly?
Oh,
Da Vinci was about 1.5 for all that in, and then I think right now, last one we priced out was closer to 2 for the
Yeah.
same.
So it's not a normal well, it's a big 12-inch well that goes 800 feet in the ground. It's got to support your sprinkler system. So you need a lot of pressure to do that. Getting it from the city, way better.
500 gallons per minute at 180 PSI.
Yeah.
So we could connect to the city, so you would, I mean, if that's the plan, you would do the city connection before you do the well?
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, you know, we can look at it, right? So when we looked at the Da Vinci, water was close, but I think it was 1.5 miles away. And so the cost of connecting to water and sanitary would have been more expensive than bringing in that system. So then we brought in that system. There's other sites where we're close enough, we're within a block or two, we can bring that in a lot easier. Again, if we have time, right, we can then work through utility easements and stuff of that nature. And so you know, during the assessments, we'll identify for you guys, okay, how much access easements do we need, how much utility easements do we need, is that gonna be can we get that done within our timeline? So it's all that stuff, we'll ID all that stuff for you guys.
Last question, what is your current workload and how many jobs do you take on at a time?
We typically do 3 to 4 projects a year. Given where St. Paul is at right now with not liking charter schools, we have one project that we're doing, it's about 6 million, and they're doing it for us. I think you guys are, no, you're not the architect, they're the contractor. Then we have a small little one up in Coon Rapids, about 4 million, that's all we have, so.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, guys. If there's any other questions, let us know. We'd love to work for you guys. We'd love to bring this to fruition. Like I said, we've done a lot of this, and it's with this team. I think we know how to do this. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
5-minute recess? 5-minute recess? Motion for 5-minute recess?
I motion for 5-minute recess.
Second?
Second.
Jules, all right, we will reconvene at 7:27.
back into teachers or whatever.
All right, let's bring this meeting back to session at 7:28. We are now on agenda item 11, board and administrative reports. We will get to Joseph when he comes back. But I will start with my report. So we met 2 weeks ago for our work session, and during this work session, we discussed a 3-year plan, kind of finalizing it. As you'll see, it is presented to everybody to view. This is kind of a working document. It's kind of our guideline is where we're going with our next 3 years. From this 3-year document, the purpose is to build a 1-year plan that Dr. Hinton and I are going to be sitting down here shortly to do. Just got to get past these next couple of weeks. But it's a good trajectory to where the board and the school is going with their governance model. Joseph, we'll get back to you in a second. We'll get back to you in a second. Like I said, the document is there. If you have any ideas and want to share them as we continue on our journey, we'll spend some time reviewing it at a later date to revise it again. We're also in the process of the board handbook that was shared with everybody. I did ask that comments, suggestions be provided by June 1st so that Dr. Hinton, Emma, and I can sit down and hash out a rough draft of it for our work session in June. And then we have here a proposed 24-25 board schedule. So I would ask that everybody take a look at that, at the proposed dates. Emma did sit down and kind of look at our Monday's the best dates, our Tuesday's the best dates, our Thursday's the best dates for our meeting. And as it's presented, there was fewer conflicts with this schedule. So like I said, take a look at it and provide some feedback for us.
Wendell, those are Tuesday dates.
Tuesday, yep.
Did you got it against the school calendar?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, Emma, she went down and looked at holidays, she looked at school events that are proposed so far, and went through there. It's on later, but if you are attending or planning to attend graduation, please send an email to Steve Heyman, as he does need to provide you with tickets to get into the facility. Dr. Hinton and I will be sending out just a brief document of what to expect and how the ceremony will go in your responsibility as a board member for graduation. If you have any questions, please reach out. Dr. Hinton.
Just a quick question.
Mhm.
Do you know timing on that date? 6 o'clock, but what time will you want us there?
Certainly by 5:30 at the latest.
Thank you.
Mhm. Dr. Hinton's report.
Okay, I'm just going to try to be brief because they're trying to keep on timeline. I just wanted to talk about, we have the budget for approval this month, and I wanted to go through quickly and just discuss how we calculate the actual PSEO numbers, because I know that there was concerns in the past, and we've had ongoing PSEO issues in terms of keeping the count. So I've been checking in every week, Joelle and Emily, our high school counselor, and our enrollment, or not enrollment now, our MARS coordinator. And we're tracking every student that's eligible for PSEO. Joelle has been a rock star. She's calling them all. I mean, those kids, they don't know what's going on. They're trying, I mean, she's just like on top of it. Where's your schedule? Come on, what are you doing? Get a plan, let's go. So we're projecting right now about 167 students in PSEO total. So far it looks like 119 will be attending Century. The U of M acceptance letters come in right about now. So we'll be those students will be finding out. Some of them think they're going to the U, but they're not, and sorting that out. And we expect that 48 will attend other colleges. We keep the full ADM for the students who attend Century, and then we pay the contract. So that's what we'll be doing. For the 48 students that attend other schools, we'll generate 8.16 ADM for those students. Thus giving us a total of 127 ADM for our 11th and 12th graders. That's 119 students at Century, and ADM for 8.16 from the other colleges. When you look at the budget, you'll see basically it looks like 40 kids are going to PSEO. That's just how it's calculated in terms of, it's the 39.84, which is what we're losing in our ADM. Then we are also then tracking what the contract would be. So we're expecting that the contract next year would be $537,642. Joelle is extremely proud. She's been tracking this and projecting, and we are off by 2 credits this semester. So I think that's pretty impressive out of thousands of credits. So I feel pretty confident with that number. So that was just, that's really, there's not a lot of other change in the budget other than we're just tightening up the enrollment. Nothing else has really changed in that budget you'll approve. In just finalizing the enrollment numbers, our surplus right now is $68,211 for next year. So that's really kind of where we are with the budget, and it should be pretty much the same as what you had approved, other than with the enrollment shifting on the upside. We'll continue to track that through the summer, as we always do. We track it constantly, but you know, if there's any changes, we'll make adjustments. But I feel pretty confident that that budget should be secure. Our revenue should be pretty much right dead on with that. Any questions on the budget before I walk? The other, we've been reorganizing our office. We have a enrollment coordinator now. We're just gonna continue to reallocate staff and take a person from within and turn them into our district operations supervisor. I've attached the job description there. It will be a person that'll come from within. They'll get a raise, but it's already in the budget, and that will be the last piece. So you'll see that posting will go up this week, if anybody's wondering where that's coming from. That position starts July 1.
That was my question, is that gonna be an internal posting then for that?
Well, when we
supervisor?
post it internally, Indeed gets it, but we're likely gonna fill in from within. I mean, it ends up on Indeed. Anything we put on our website goes on Indeed, but it will probably most likely be internal because that's how the budget's working. To not add an additional person.
So I did have a question about the budget, and I'm debating, do I wait until we approve the budget or do I bring it up here? With what we were just presented, and if actions take us in a different route, is the 100,000 that Koo talked about within our budget for this?
Yeah, that money comes out of the building company, so there's money there. And we can capitalize it back into the loan, so if we need to.
Yeah, I just think that's important information.
Yeah, so it's not coming, it would come out of a different budget, just like the roof on Building B is coming out of a different budget. I mean, it's still money, it's still real money, but it's not money that we could spend on math books
Right.
or teachers.
With that, and this is, I don't know if this is budget or reorganization, so I'm gonna ask it here.
Okay.
Last month, we, in the finance report and everything, and in the minutes, it reflected the 6.3% increase for teachers. That is just teachers. I've not heard or seen anything about increases for office staff or administration. Where does that fall in the budget, and where does that hit, I guess?
So those raises, the office staff raises are right around 4%. They're in the budget as well. Administrative raises are coming in at about 5%. And those are all in the budget right now, including this new position.
Well, that was I guess that was where I was going, was, okay, if this is an internal hire, are you then going to replace that person?
No, it is not, so we will not end up net.
So it's a
promotion.
reclassification kind of,
Yeah.
of current position.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Isaac with the Finance Committee report.
Should we go back to student?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes. Following the schedule.
Okay, so I would like to say that, before I say anything, this month is, Asian American and Pacific Islander History Month. So, as we continue to celebrate and learn from our diverse community at MSA, I also would like to take the moment to also highlight the importance of recognizing May as Asian American and Pacific Islander History Month. The Asian community at MSA is the second biggest representation of students in our school, when they represent about 27.9% of our student body. And this month offers, an opportunity to honor their rich history and, the contribution of Asian Americans, not only in our MSA community, but also across the nation. So I know MSA has done a good job of acknowledging that so far this month, so I just wanted the board to know about that. I will be talking on Josh's behalf. He had to go for church, so I will be talking to you about the sports that have been going on so far at MSA, what they've been looking like so far this season. First one to start on was girls badminton. The badminton team had a fantastic season. They finished with 8 wins and 2 losses on the season in total, and undefeated, 6-0 in their conference play. The badminton team spent countless hours working on their craft under their new coach, which is Jamie Strand. Continuing their dominance, the Dragons won their 4th straight conference title in a year. On the individual side, seniors Adri Tachany and Pranu Vadir peaked at number 10 in the state rankings for doubles. So it's been a very successful season for the girls out there. I do want to talk about track also. The MSA track team has a very rich history when it comes to conference competition, and the dominance has also continued this season. I don't know if many people on the board know, but MSA was insane at track back in 2020, 2018. If you see our leaderboards, practically all of our leaders, our leading times is from those years. We also had a runner named Tierney Wolfgram, who was a national runner who also reclassed to get to college faster and then to compete competitively. So MSA has had a very successful track team, and that dominance has continued on this year. On both the boys and the girls side, the Dragons were able to take home their conference title this past week. This season has also been very historic for the Dragons. The boys track team had finished with individual performances inside the all-time top 10 list in this season 33 times within their respective events. And the girls track team, they finished with individual performances in the all-time top 10 list this season 25 times within their respective events. And they've been on a roll this season, and they are about to enter section competition, and they're hoping to continue their record-breaking streak and have some of their athletes earn their ticket to the state competition. So that's kind of on the sports part, but I would like to now talk about the MSA community, the events that have happened so far. One that you may have known was prom. We actually had prom Saturday, and I'm really pleased to report on the resounding success on this year's annual prom, which marked a very historic moment for MSA as it was held on a boat for the very first time. And the decision to host this event on a boat, it really added a unique flair that was met by tremendous enthusiasm from our student body, which resulted in an unprecedented sellout of tickets. And this overwhelming demand initially presented the teachers, being Miss O'Keefe and Miss Hy Nelson, with the challenge, but thanks to their swift and effective actions of these art teachers and our prom directors, they were able to secure a larger boat for us, ensuring that no student missed out on this special occasion. The prom night itself was spectacular. It was a very spectacular showcase of our school spirit and community. The DJ played a wide array of music catering to diverse tastes, and they also included cultural pieces that highlighted the inclusivity of our event. The quality of the food served was very good, and it really contributed to the festive atmosphere that we had that night. From my personal experience, I have gone to Easter's prom this year, and I've gone to another public school prom, but I feel like MSA's this year was the best one for me, just because of one, the location and the kind of night we had. And I think that having, like reflecting on this, the event this year, I think it sets a new standard for how we can make school events both more memorable and inclusive. So I think a special thanks goes to Miss O'Keefe and Miss Hyde Nelson and their dedication and hard work that was instrumental in making this event a success. I would then like to talk about the Black Student Union. Last Thursday, our BSU hosted our annual Unity Night, which is an evening that's dedicated to celebrating African American culture and unity. Students there actively participated in reading poetry, listening to music, playing games with their friends, and also enjoying food. Unity Night is not only provided to our students with a platform to express their talents, but also to bring our community and also our board, when I say board, my BSU board, closer together. It's one of the many events here at MSA where students get to showcase their rich cultural heritage that our students bring to the school. Looking forward, our BSU is set to host an event even larger than the one that we had for Unity Night, and it's going to take place next week on Memorial Day, and it's in collaboration with BSUs from Eastridge, Woodbury, Stillwater, White Bear Lake, Roseville, North St. Paul, Mounds View, and St. Paul Johnson. This is what we call a Minnesota BSU Night, and we've been planning for about a month with these BSUs to unite students from across the region and across the state to make connections and kind of come together to celebrate these diverse student bodies. Next thing I want to talk about is Computer Club. Last Saturday, Computer Club held its 13th annual Geek Gaming event where students from MSA get to come and show what they're about and come together, enjoy a night of playing different video games, different tournaments, experiencing virtual reality, eating pizza, and also getting to see the history of these games and consoles as they were able to experience and play on consoles that date all the way back to the early 70s and 80s. This year, the event was composed of 4 main tournaments, which was Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, both singles and doubles, and a retro game speed run where students had to get through a variety of consoles from different video games and to get the highest score in each one in a small amount of time. The winner of Mario Kart was actually my cousin, who doesn't go to MSA. The winner of the Smash Brothers Ultimate Singles was actually the kid who won All-State, the All-State musician team. And then my brother and I, we won the doubles tournament. And then for the retro game speed run, my cousin also won that one too. So so that's just how it kind of worked out, guys. I think you know, these events also aren't just play for fun. You know, there's cash prize. There's a $25 prize for each student that gets to be a part of that. And Computer Club has been a big part of my life. I haven't been able to really contribute to it in high school, but I do help plan a lot of the Geek Gaming events for them. Upcoming things that I want to talk about, I know Mr. Slatton knows about it, but the choir and orchestras will perform on May 22nd at 7 p.m. And the bands will perform on May 29th at 7 p.m. in the gym. This is for their spring concerts, so go check that out. And also, with MSA's successful boys swim team that we've had this year, with the success it brought, MSA is starting a competitive girls swim team next fall, and they're actually having an informational meeting on the 30th of May at 4:15 in the Great Hall Building A. So, and it's also being coached by Ms. Metcalf, so that's also something that's really fun. So that's all I have on my part for my report. Also want to just say this is my last meeting on the MSA board. I've learned a lot being here for the past 2 years, seeing everything this board has gone through and how it's grown and to where it is today. I continue to hope that this board will always be for the students, not just for the students, but also for our families, our teachers, our stakeholders, as we continue and progress throughout the year. So thank you to the board for teaching me things about myself and helping me become who I am today.
Thank you, Joseph, and to Josh for your time.
For sure.
I do have a question about the BSU Unity Night. I didn't hear anything about
So,
this year. What?
So about the BSU Unity Night, there was a really big hiccup in, I guess, communication between the board and between our advisor and also between I think the announcements on MSA, so it didn't get a lot of
Yeah.
publicity out there. But this year, we just made it a BSU event, so it was mainly just Black Student Union students that came and just enjoyed the event just as a small club that we are, so.
Will it well, do you know if in future years it'll be back open to the public?
Oh
or is
yeah,
it
it'll
gonna
be back
stay?
open to the
Okay.
public, yeah. I think this year we kept it limited just because of the time constraints that we had on it and because we're planning, our board is focused on planning this big night next week with all these other boards. We haven't had that much time for the unity night, but it was really successful last year, so we decided to host it this year. Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on to finance committee reports. Isaac.
All right, so we have a report from the May meeting for the April financials. We have a similar ADM from the last few meetings, so 601 for that. The budget surplus for the year in the latest report is down a little bit, down to $13,613. The reason attributed to that in the meeting was more money was spent on supplies. But we also have some extra money that we're anticipating to have in the positive part of our budget at the end of the year. So an extra $10,000 in state funds, and then a large amount of $176,000 from lease aid that we weren't sure if we could keep, but the plan is to have that. So we're anticipating that the final end of the year budget line will be larger than the 13,000 we have right now.
We're taking some of that 176 and applying it next year. Some will be in this year.
Other things we check all look good, so cash on hand, debt service coverage, expenditures are still lower, but with the end of the year payouts, we're expecting that to stay on track with what is planned. I think we'll talk more about the budget draft when we approve it, if we have questions on that. And then we just talk to make sure that the end of the year's things such as PD fund requests are figured out and budget carryover update is clear for any clubs or anything like that. So do we have any questions before we approve? Right.
So I just have a quick one.
Yep.
On the financial report from April in the supplemental, it says that there's a budgeted surplus of 50,000. But here in your report, it's saying it's 13. And then down below, it's saying the working budget.
Are you, and in the supplementals,
Yes.
are you looking at the activities budget?
Okay, never mind.
You're saying the
I see it
adopted?
now.
So-
It didn't make sense when I read it the first time, or the second or the third. We had budgeted to have a surplus of 50. Our actual surplus at this point is only gonna be 13, correct?
It likely will end up a little higher, but yeah, that's what it's projected
Okay.
right now, that's what it says.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the financial reports.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Any questions on the governance committee report?
Liz, do you want to explain how we ended up with the second revision of the bylaws? If you want me to talk about that.
I know that was, just looking at our agenda here, I know it's part of the action item that's coming up a little bit later too.
Oh, okay.
But I can talk about it now, or I can talk about it
No,
when
we
we get
can
to
hold
12.
off, I just want to make sure we get that in the record.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I have a question for you. Under the, in the minutes, it talks about, you know, the attorney approved, I'm guessing approved it. That's not the words used, but I'm guessing that that's what it is referring to. Since we are going to be voting on that, is it possible for us to see the attorney's communication?
It was just a discussion, it was not, there's nothing
Okay.
written down.
I mean, we're taking this as, yes, this is what it is, and if I'm putting my name behind it, I want to know.
So basically, it's the same information that we talked about at the last meeting, but you could put a gap period of time in there.
Okay.
That's all the discussion was.
On to action items. First up is the bylaw revision. So at our work session, we talked about some legislatively mandated changes that needed to come with our bylaws. We also talked about some suggestions from our authorizers that they need to see within our contract renewal. And since then, we had a second recommendation from our authorizer, which was made last week. So Jules will talk to that about that.
Yeah, so when you're looking through, you'll see, if you look at your agenda here, right? We have to get through a clean version of the bylaws, all right? And part of the reason we need to do that is, not just the directive from the authorizer, but this is regarding legality changes that happened with the education omnibus, or omnibus education bill that came through. So the changes that are in there are things that are pulled directly out of law, right? This isn't us adding in anything that we came up with in a meeting or anything like that. This is directly out of law. This is coming from our authorizer so that we have a clean set of bylaws, so that we can get our contract set, so that we can get our funding. We want everyone just to be aware of why this came about the way that it did, so there's no kind of misunderstandings with this. Okay, so this is the direction from the authorizer regarding legality. And it's necessary for contract renewal to ensure we get our funding.
So we got the additional list we had an original list of things that need to be added to the bylaws. We got a second list Thursday at noon. And so the governance committee pulled together and tried to update this. Liz needs our clean bylaws because they become part of our contract. And so she wants that copy of the bylaws done in the minutes, that it's approved. We will send them to her. She will add them to our contract, which when we approve that next month. But she said that schools that did not do that were getting their contracts kicked back. So that was her reasoning for wanting us to do that. So we need our contract to be approved and go through, because if we don't have an approved contract come July 1, there's no money.
It might have just been oversight, but 3AC, I believe this community member not having been 6 year, that came from us, right? That came from the governance board, and maybe should have been highlighted red. Is that right?
So the things that are red are the things that happened since the work session.
Yes.
So that was new in the work session.
Okay.
We just highlighted because we were trying to figure out how to be transparent about what's in the bylaws that wasn't in the bylaws
Last time.
2 weeks ago. So
Okay.
those are the things that have come in the last 2 weeks.
So I should have opened up the 2 weeks ago
Yeah,
to see
and
what
that's-
really we're talking about.
Well, and that was kind of complicated too, because the way that came through, that was a live document, so it wasn't a true red line.
Jules, is there a suggested motion?
Yeah, I'd like to motion to pass the, this was here, 2024 clean bylaws.
Maybe read the amended date.
That were amended on, hold on one second.
May 21st.
That were amended on May 21st, 2004.
Proposed to be amended. May 21st.
Proposed to be amended. Okay, that were proposed to be amended, May 21st, 2024.
So the motion to pass the 2024 clean bylaws that were proposed to be amended on May 21st, 2024. By Jules. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
I was happy to see the term limits in, so that I think we discussed, so I think that's good. I'm still not maybe understanding or convinced on the 6-year limit. I understand the intent, but I don't feel, it doesn't feel right to me to put a restriction on people who want to serve. So, and then for me, I might struggle to vote in the affirmative only because I've misunderstood, and it clearly says this is since the workshop. So I read red lines because the way we always read red lines, this is what's changed. So I didn't go back and do my due diligence to see what's changed twice. So I don't feel like I can approve it without just, because I don't understand what's all changed.
Any further discussion?
I was gonna say, I can speak to the term limit piece,
Yeah.
because I did the research on it. I submitted a couple of different sites, or I cited a couple of different resources that I had found. A white paper, best practices for nonprofit boards, and IRS recommendation that a term limit be a limit of 6 years. And I submitted that to Wendell and Kate last week.
And that was also, term limits was also in Liz's requirement for us to add to our bylaws.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
that
that
is
came
actually-
after you.
It came
Yeah.
after, so we didn't ask you to do the research and then say, oh yeah, by the way, we were gonna do it anyway. That was a Thursday.
It just
late
made
one,
it easier
but
for you to do?
It just aligned, so there's,
Yeah.
and I only bring it up because there's 2 reasons why it's in there.
Mhm.
And that was what we received Thursday,
That's what came in Thursday.
Yeah. very recently. So it was helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Because we already had language, and we just took the language. Oh, 2 things that didn't have language.
I'm glad I could be of help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Last caller. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Just, I've got 2 copies,
Okay.
just sign them and pass them along.
Sign both of them?
Yeah, I just want to have one to send to the authorizer and then one to put on the website.
So we need to sign Mayor Isaac.
so excited.
Oh, I'm so official.
Mr. Slattery, I have a quick question. When we get into the closed meeting, should I come back after?
You shouldn't need to. No. No, it's just the executive committee of the board.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nothing. Excellent.
All right, moving on. Item B, contract goals. Is there a motion to approve Exhibit F of the contract goals?
I will motion to approve Exhibit F.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Discussion?
These are unchanged.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask.
This is unchanged, so
Unchanged
you
from the
can
work
rest
session.
assured, if you read it fully, then it's not different.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Did you get signed out?
Yeah, I don't know.
So motion to approve Exhibit F, all in favor? Aye. Everybody?
Okay.
SAM contract. So Liz was to send us the contract prior to everything being sent out. She did not meet that timeline, so I am proposing that we postpone the approval of our contract until our June 13th workshop
We'll have a special meeting.
for a special meeting, yeah.
We'll have- I know.
There's gonna be a
teacher
few
Lozada
people
will
out,
be
yep.
there, and I know I
Yep.
can't make it.
We'll still have a majority.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I won't be there that day either. Sorry.
that is all we need.
Have
We'll have a
majority.
quorum, though.
I think
Fine.
we'll have a
It's-
quorum, yeah.
Quorum.
And if they're not, we'll have to
Do it the next time.
schedule another special meeting, so. So in my role, I'm to second any motions. Is there somebody who would like to motion to postpone?
I move that we table the contract, or the
Let's say
same
postpone.
contract.
Postpone is the
until
word.
the June
Not
13th.
table. Gotta
It's
keep it
tabled.
active.
It's postponed. Table, there's some language between the two, and the correct language is postpone.
Or reset, rescheduled,
Mhm.
something like that.
Motion to postpone the
Contract
approval until June special, June
What day it is?
13th.
13th.
Special meeting.
Mary. Mary.
I will second that. Further discussion? Is there anything you want to add about what I said? Is it accurate?
No, it's accurate. Liz has got all the documents from us now.
Mhm.
And I'll send her what we just approved, and then she should be able to get it all together. The other pieces in that are just approved in the bigger board packet. They're not, or the bigger contract. They're not individually approved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Alright. Is there a motion to approve the staff handbook?
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
One thing I noticed was that some of the workplace rules, there are some things that are not in the table of contents.
besides one substantial.
Can you be specific to
Sorry.
pages? It would just help with revising.
Yeah, it's on, let's see, table of contents, it's page 14. Yeah, the one-on-one with students, which was mentioned as an inclusion this year, on page 14, as well as the appearance and grooming on page 14.
And they just weren't reflected in the table of contents.
Correct.
Any other discussion?
First off, I want to say, as someone who has seen a lot of benefit packages, you have a very robust auxiliary benefit package. And I hope the teachers know how unique that is. The bereavement policy jumped out at me. I was like, whoa, okay, that's probably one of the most generous I have ever seen. And having seen the insurance benefit tonight, your insurance benefits are almost better than the state of Minnesota employee benefits. They're very good. So, I know that we don't necessarily keep up with our neighboring districts as far as pay right now. But if you were to look at some of their benefits and some of these things, you should feel very blessed or very privileged to be here because they're very good. One thing I looked, I could not find it, and I would like to see, not necessarily an addition for this year, although if you could figure out how to put it in. In other words, it's not gonna stop me from approving it. I would like us to consider it though going forward. And that is regarding, expectations for digital learning days and accessibility. For students to be able to access teachers. It is a fully paid day is my understanding. And it's not a mental health day or anything else. So I would like to see that worded in here.
I think we have some wording on our website that we could look at some point, putting this in here. I mean, staff do have expectations on it, but we can look at that in the handbook, yep.
Can you expand on that? What do you mean?
Just, students are expected to put in a full day of work during digital learning days, at least mine.
Students are or aren't?
Are.
Okay, I just.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
students are
Okay.
expected to. And I know sometimes it's difficult to get in touch with the teachers if they're struggling. Or sometimes hours are on the same hour. And if you're stuck in one class with that assignment, it makes it really difficult to get in touch with the other teacher who maybe have the same office hour as the first class.
Okay.
So, looking at some of those things and what those being clear on what those expectations are.
Yeah, that in the digital or e-learning days.
On page 17, digital or e-learning days, teachers are expected to provide instruction to students in Google Classroom for each scheduled class on these days. Teachers will have these instructions posted on their Google Classroom by 10 a.m. and will be available for students during their predetermined office hours. So I guess, what
Right.
language would you like to see to help expand on this, is my question.
I guess I'm looking at, is that teacher putting in a full, are they accessible the full amount of time? Our students are working typically that full amount of time. And if a student is not able to access a teacher during an office hour, how do they go about getting in touch with them that day? if they're struggling. You have black and white thinkers who are very concrete thinkers that think, okay, if Teacher Lozano is only available from 10:30 to 11:30, if those are her office hours. But I'm getting to my Spanish at 1 because I was working on math at 10:30, and I was stuck on a problem there, so I was working with Mr. Leonardi. I can't reach out to Teacher Lozano because that's outside of her office.
Is that a governance thing though, or is that like a key?
Well, so my question is there a way to put in what the expectation is?
The expectation is posted, it is posted.
So.
But what I'm hearing from you, Mary,
We work
is that you
internally.
want teachers are available their full hours, what I'm understanding. Is that what you're saying?
I think if
Yeah.
you want a synchronous day for the teachers. You want it to be like synchronous learning, like.
And I think we've got to be careful because we are crossing that, like Brian said, governance versus management. So we just need to be careful. So to your point, Mary, request through Dr. Hinton, and that will be approached at the administration level.
And so one of the reasons why we put it pretty vague in here is because we need to be able to change it depending on what the needs are of the students and the teachers and, in terms of what's expected. Because a digital day is different than an e-learning day. And so we just tried to keep it was more specific, but then more confusing. So we tried to simplify it. But there are deeper expectations, as there are more robust expectations on nearly everything in this handbook than what's in the handbook.
Okay.
But it's a good question, making sure that everybody understands. Thank you.
Any further comments, discussion? Okay. All in favor, with the amended items for page 14 in the table of contents, yes. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. All right, on to the approval of the budget. Dr. Hinton, is there, actually, let's motion first. Is there a motion to approve the 24-25 budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 budget.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Discussion? I would like to say thank you, Dr. Hinton, for the time that has been spent on this budget, knowing what we've been through this past year and last year's budget. I think that there's been a lot of work done in ensuring that we are looking at a budget that's going to make us successful moving forward.
I feel like this may have been asked before, but on page 3 for other revenue, we have the annual fund / dragon dinner. Is that the give to the max
Yes.
fund? Okay, thank you.
And it says dragon dinner, we're not probably gonna have a dragon dinner, but that's just kind of like a line item
Yeah,
for other
okay.
fundraising.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. On to item F, expansion, update, and approval of next steps.
So at this point, I think it's prudent for the board to consider what we want to do with our NTH contract and what we want to do with, if we are interested in changing project management teams. So this is kind of on the agenda for. I would like the opportunity to negotiate the conclusion of our contract with NTH and have the authority to begin negotiating with JB Vang with the hope that we could come with a contract for approval when we approve the SAM contract on the 13th of June.
I could make that motion. I'd like to authorize our executive director to do just that, work on closing out the NDH contract and switching over to a contract with JB Vang. Same, I guess they even say they can do it, I'm elaborating, they say they can do it a year faster, but at least get the contract started to see what that looks like. I think we've pushed NDH as hard as we can. So I don't know if somebody wants a second without my editorial comments.
I'll second.
Then we can discuss further.
So just to make sure we have it captured, motion to authorize the executive director to close out the contract with NTH and
Establish or how.
move forward or negotiate contract.
Yeah, for approval by the board. Ideally by the same June 13th.
Yep. Contract with JB
So I'd like that to be
Vang
the
for
motion. I feel
approval
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
by the board. Do you want to put the date in there or?
Or as soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
That's fine.
I mean,
It's always-
I've got the feeling he will have it done tomorrow if I call him. But
It doesn't work. I was gonna say, I'm guessing it's in your inbox.
Yeah. Same with Dan and Brian. So motion to authorize the executive director to close out the NTH contract and negotiate contract with JB Vang for approval by the board as soon as possible. Ryan seconded that. Further discussion?
The only thing I would just say is NTH did a great job.
Yes.
We gave them, I think, a fair bit of time, maybe even more than I think I would have liked. I think we
Yeah,
were
we were kind
super
of-
Minnesota nice as best we could, but we have to draw the line somewhere and say it can't be done. So we're gonna have to pivot. And we had that basically conversation with them as well, so.
I think it's important for the community to know too, this is a pivot. It's
Yes.
not a restart, it is just a pivot. Because we paid for our work with NTH, that is our documents, that is our research. And we're just pivoting with a new project manager.
So the goals have not changed, if you will. I mean, we're still expanding and we're just trying to figure out the tools that we need in order to make that happen. And what we were doing was not working.
Have we contacted our attorney just for contract review to make sure that we can get out of it?
That's part of the motion.
It's like a month to month.
There's a
So
termination.
I'm not
That's what I wanted to
anticipating
know.
that we have a problem with getting out of that. If there's any stickiness with them, then of course I will contact the attorney, but I think they'll be willing to.
There wasn't a, so many days in advance notice.
It's just a one-page. They told us we could pause at any time when we approved that the last time, so.
Okay.
And that due diligence will be part of this motion. I mean, that's part of closing out a contract, that's part of renegotiating a new contract.
And that's why I asked JV Vang in particular, how does that transition go? Because we have done some work and got some started.
Right.
So I'm hoping that they can all be professional and sort that out on the back end of who does what. Because we've started real estate discussions, we've started contacting with the owners of the land. So how does that play out? That's kind of beyond us. I think they need to agree on what's fair.
In JB Bank, or in NTH, I have no complaints with them, they just were not able to do with our budget.
I think too, for the record, JB Vang's track record it's gold. I mean, success rate of almost nearly 100%. I mean, I'd like to look into that a little bit more. I think that what he presented to us, I'm optimistical about the timeline. That's just all of a sudden, we're looking at 2 years now to 1 year, like, oh boy. hang on tight, let's go. But he's had the success rate, so I think it speaks for itself.
Now, for them, if they can get those walls up,
Mhm.
that's
That's the big
huge.
part.
So I have a question. In his projected budget, there was the total budget cost, which was 43 million, compared to the 49 million, which it sounds like that included like lease. Like, so what would we be working on? So, yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, we lose, everyone gets their piece of the pie. So the 49 million is kind of basically, you gotta think about that's what we're taking out as the loan, but there's a whole bunch of people taking cuts all the way down. So what we actually have to work with, if you heard in NTH, it was the 39 million.
Yeah.
So that's how much we can spend on the building and stuff, because people have, and there's interest, and there's, people are
There's stuff
charging
that
us
gets
just to set up
charged
the
out.
loans.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
So we can't spend that money, but we have to spend the money, but we don't get to use it.
But it's
Yeah.
already set
Yeah.
up to be used in a very specific way.
So now we're trying to close the gap from 43,000 to, or 4 million to, sorry, I'm not used to working with millions. 43 million to 39 million.
Well, no, we don't have to do that much because the interest rates have come down a little bit.
Okay.
So, I mean, NTH would have had a little bit more to work with too,
Yeah.
just not enough
Okay.
to close the gap.
Yeah.
But the speed is where the money is being made because
Okay.
we, unlike if you're building a house or something where you're borrowing every time they do a next stage, we borrow the money one time at the front end and we start paying interest at the front end. If it takes 2 years, that's twice as much capitalized interest.
Okay.
So
Or
that's,
a million or something.
yeah.
The other thing you gotta
Escrow interest
remember,
of 600.
sorry, NTH didn't say it explicitly tonight, but their dollar per square foot is significantly higher than what
So-
JB Bang said. He said 250.
Yeah.
And that 250 number, our numbers work. At 300 or 400, our numbers do not work anymore. So that's why our building kept getting smaller, is because they had to make it smaller because their $400 per square foot is too much.
Well,
So,
and I found it interesting because NTH had us at 77 square feet per student, and with what JB Bang gave us, he was at 89 to 96 square foot per student. With-
Closer to what we
He's giving
got.
us a bigger building, so, for that money, NTH was at 116,000. When I just gave him some very rough parameters, I said 116 to 120, he went up to 125. Also included in this budget is some remodel on this building. So he didn't really
And that
spell it
wasn't
out.
in NTH's.
I was just building.
if you think about it, we don't have a choice. We can't
No.
proceed with the
Yeah,
existing.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
You
have
know,
to,
this
we
is-
either don't, or we lease and kick the problem down the road, or we make a switch here and see if we can do what he says he can do.
So the NTH contract has a 7-day termination written notice that we need to provide, and they have 30 days to cancel. We need to provide 7 days' notice.
Okay.
And then it's a proration, depending on what that start date is.
And our motion does acknowledge the timeline.
So it looks like the 28th is when the month starts, so.
So why did we pick
Doesn't say business
NTH to
days.
begin with?
It's a longer story maybe, but
Okay.
I would say expansion is at least 5 years, like
Yeah.
it was mentioned, so that's a long story. And then it took a little while, the brief version, it took a little while to convince ourselves that we need to expand, a year or two. And then I would say, then we said, okay, let's do it, and we brought in JB Bang and we brought in others, and the folks at that time went with NTH, and there's different reasons for that. I would say probably the biggest thing in my mind and my recollection was NTH brought a fantastic show, if you will. I mean, they brought the architects, they brought the construction, so it was impressive, right? And so the folks at that time said NTH is the one. If I recall, JB Bang came by himself, and it was a little bit like kind of a one-man show. So I think this time it was a different approach, right? Came with a very impressive, these are the guys that will build it, these are the guys that will design it. So That's the very short
Yeah.
version,
I
yeah.
appreciate the short version.
And you know, at that time, we were still trying to decide if we were building on this site or moving. So some of the thoughts about what we could do building on this site were a little justifying to some who were in the committee, I think. And so I think that might have, but
And
anyway, that's.
interest rates were so different.
Oh,
too.
yeah, interest rates were different and we didn't really have a clear idea of budget going back that time.
Last call for discussion. What did you?
I got some.
Yeah. So motion to authorize the executive director to close out the NTH contract and negotiate contract with JB Vane for approval by the board as soon as possible. Motion by Ellingson, second by Linsmeyer. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. On to election results and committee dissolve.
I can just, did the board get to see them or not yet?
I sent it this morning.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically what I would say is we had a meeting yesterday, so we missed the deadline, and I asked the chair if it was possible to include them in tonight's, just because we have the results. A lot of credit goes to the committee as well as Justin for doing all the legwork on the back end. I would say clean results. We have clear winners for everyone. We did see, and just to be 100% transparent, we did an audit check, so myself and Sarah had like separate portions of the emails sent to us, so I had timestamps, and I think you had votes.
I had votes.
Yes, and that was compared to Justin's master database. We were off by a few, and that scares people, but what ended up happening was, I think I had 3 emails rejected because of an IP6 versus IP4, something with the Google server, and you had 2. And so basically, the nice thing was Justin was able to show us the server report with the 3 ones that were kicked back and the 2 ones that were kicked back, so they all tallied back to the total number that we should have. So, and the margin of win was significantly bigger than the 2 and 3, so we're comfortable that these are the results, even with those. And then next year, he has promised to look in to see how we can try to solve that. It came about by the 2 computer servers talking to each other and not liking what they were seeing. So he's gonna look at that for the next one. I think the system is a good system, we just need to, it'd be cleaner if it was 100% every vote. And in the years past, I believe it has been, but this time we had a couple kickback. So I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the results that were shared and that we dissolve the election committee of 2024.
Will you share
Yeah.
publicly who won?
And I didn't bring it, but we had,
I don't have the exact count, but I can say.
we had,
I was
what-
gonna say, I have the numbers here. If my computer didn't die. Just a second.
The numbers will be shared publicly, so that we can just do the.
They're
the names.
Yeah,
Here
so
they
that,
are.
yeah, Tamara Brooks.
So, the teacher representative will be Ms. Tamara Brooks with 118 votes. The parent representative will be Kari Corner with 85 votes. And the community member will be Brian Linsmeyer with 73 votes.
So congratulations to all of them.
Congratulations to everyone.
And thank you to those that stepped up, and we look forward to their continuation with our support of MSA.
Can I beg to just announce the student reps too, although they weren't part of that election committee. They had, those folks have been in as well. And our 2 student representatives are Abigail can you guys say that for me? Wamadas. And Neka Amadi. So congratulations to those.
Congratulations to them, yes.
Thank you.
So I had a motion, which is
Motion.
basic.
Motion that the board approve the results of the election and we dissolve the committee?
Yeah.
Should I put the results in the motion or?
Do you remember if we did it pass separately or if we do it?
I think we
I
have
mean,
to
approve of the
approve
results,
the
yeah.
election
Yeah.
results
Yeah.
separately.
Sorry?
Probably separately, because we have to approve the election results.
Yeah.
Separate from the
True,
students, you
yeah.
said?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah, I
motion-
agree.
Oh, the students was just his comment.
Oh,
I
no, no,
thought
not
that's
from
already
the
done.
students, from,
We're separating from the dissolve.
dissolving the
Okay.
committee.
Okay, 2 separate
Right,
motions?
yeah.
Because you have to
That's how
motion
that
to
you guys
approve
did
and
it last
then,
time.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. So motion,
Motion.
are we would just say motion to approve the results of the election, 2024 election. Made by Ellingson, second. You second that? Sorry, I didn't.
Maybe you shouldn't.
Or, I'm sorry.
No, I
the-
didn't.
the,
I
uh,
can second.
I,
No, I shouldn't.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
Do you want neutrality? Is that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the conversation.
Brian to second the
Oh,
motion
yeah.
for the election
Okay.
results.
Yeah.
I'll second the election results.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. So is there a motion to dissolve the election committee?
I can make that motion.
I can second that one.
Motion to dissolve the election committee made by Sarah Harn, seconded by Dan Ellingson. Discussion?
Just want to thank the committee for their time and efforts. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Oh.
In favor?
You're ready.
Yeah. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Okay. All right. Are we in need of another recess?
Just a quick stand-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
5-minute recess? Okay. Motion for a 5-minute recess?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay. We will reconvene at 8:41. Welcome back. We are opening the meeting, just close it again as we move into our executive director review. So we'll be closing this meeting pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3. All right. The board reviewed the individual, Dr. Kate Hinton, under the authority of the BOD and concluded some strengths in the areas of growth. The board chair will review these findings in more detail with the executive director and provide a more in-depth communication at our next meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Future items, we have the student parent handbook coming up. We have graduation, and as I stated earlier, if you are planning on being at graduation, please communicate to Mr. Heyman so he can give you tickets. We have our year in review coming up, as well as the Iowa approval. Are there any other items we wish to see on future agendas?
Can you explain, I'm sorry, it's late, it's been a really long day.
Yep.
The Iowa approval.
I don't remember off the top of my hand what it stands for, but it is, I'll send you some information on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's one of those that it's not coming to me.
It's a yearly renewal that we have to do.
Can you say a little bit more about the year in review also?
It's just a time for us to reflect as a board and how our year has progressed in areas of growth, areas of weaknesses as we move and look towards writing goals for next year.
Okay.
Mhm. Motion to adjourn.
All motion.
Is there a second?
I can second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?